Hello, everyone, and welcome to New Matter, the SLAS podcast where we interview life science luminaries. I'm your host, Hannah Rosen, and today we are joined by Colten Wimmer, Chief Sales Officer at Byonoy. Byonoy won the SLAS 2023 New Product Award for their Absorbance 96 Automate. Welcome, Colten.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be on.
It's our pleasure to have you. So to start us off, Colten, can you just kind of give us a little bit about your professional background and your areas of expertise?
Yeah, sure. So I originally studied biochemistry, although my stint as a biochemist was quite brief, as I realized pretty early on that my interests lay more in industry and sort of, particularly on the business side of things. What does it take to, run a company, build up a business? So I sort of ended up working at a startup, which was this company, actually, Byonoy, and sort of have been doing that for the last while, basically since my transition, I guess, from science to more from science to science-based industry, like put it that way. So I would say my professional background is mostly on the business side of things now, although, like I said, it is good to have those fundamentals in biochemistry, as a foundation for the work that I do as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm always shocked when I meet people who work in like sales and who have no idea about the science behind the product they're selling. It always baffles my mind. I'm like, how can you sell something if you don't understand what it is you're selling? So I think that probably gives you a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, it is an interesting approach. I've also met similar people at trade shows and conferences, and I don't know. It's not our approach. I guess it may have its charms. But yeah, no, we definitely feel that we need to understand our products. We need to understand the applications. We need to understand our user base. And that's sort of an essential part of, being able to tailor our products to the needs of our users as well. And sort of really connect with them on a different level as well, right? So I think if you're discussing something about an assay, and of course, users that they have questions, there are service inquiries. And although we're a device manufacturer, it's pretty much, an inevitability that someone's going to ask you a question at some point related to your assay. And if we're all just sort of like, engineers sitting here, we can get into a bit of trouble. So like I said, it's very helpful. And I think all of our salespeople and even marketing people as well have that scientific background to, like I said, to just give them a bit of a base to connect better with our users.
Yeah, fantastic. So, first of all, congratulations to you guys for winning the New Product Award at SLAS 2023. How do you guys feel about your win?
Yeah, thank you very much. We were really ecstatic. So it was a huge honor to win the New Product Award. We actually won the New Product Award at SLAS Europe back in 2019 for our first product, which was Absorbance 96, so without the automate part on the end. Even back then, the competition wasn't as stiff as it was this time. So back then I remember I actually posted it. We were a much smaller company back then, but I posted it on our Slack channel that we won the New Product Award, and nobody actually believed me. So they were like, "Yeah, very funny." I was like, "No, I'm serious." Like I had to call them and inform them that I was being serious. But this time, it was definitely real. We were there. We were in San Diego, and it was, like I said, a special honor to win the New Product Award, especially considering whom we were up against. So there was a lot of competition. There were many companies with great products. And yeah, like I said, we were sitting there and they announced our name, and the announcer said, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. And I already knew we had won because everyone always has trouble pronouncing our names. So yeah, like I said, it was a particular pleasure and really a wonderful surprise to win the award in San Diego.
Wonderful. And how was your overall experience at SLAS 2023 at the conference as a whole?
It was great. Sort of overwhelming in many different ways. We showed up there with only two people. So I was there with our CEO, Yusuf, and we were kind of like, we didn't really know what to expect because we had been there in 2020, actually, as part of the Innovation Avenue, or Avenue, I guess it is. So and at that point, we were also there with two people, and it was pretty busy, but we were like, okay, I think we can handle this with two people. But we were completely overwhelmed and exhausted by the end of the show, and just due to the sheer number of people who showed up to our booth. So it was really surprising. And there were multiple occasions where we had a lineup of people waiting to talk to us. And it was tough to sort of grapple with losing all of those people and dealing with all of the newcomers. So we weren't able to speak to everyone, unfortunately. And I mean, we didn't even get to walk around and look at any of the other booths when we were there. So we were at our stand the entire time. But like I said, the overall experience was fantastic, exhausting. It was, I guess, a whirlwind, if you want to put it that way, because we were just so busy the whole time that we didn't really have time to even think about what was going on. I mean, the response too from the people, from everyone who was there was really positive. And we had people taking selfies with our products at our booth, and I don't know, it was just a really special experience. So I'm really glad that we got to experience that.
Yeah, well, I guess you're just going to have to come back to SLAS 2024 with a bigger crew to make up for all the booths you missed out on getting to see this past year.
That's exactly the plan. So we've already booked our stand. And we also got a little bit more space than we had, so we can host all of the people who are interested in our products. And who knows? There may be another new product being launched in SLAS next year, but we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that air of intrigue. Keep us interested. I love it. So can you, kind of just briefly describe for us, what is this award-winning product, the Absorbance 96 Automate?
Yeah. So Absorbance 96 was our first product, which is sort of a standalone microplate reader or benchtop microplate reader. And Absorbance 96 Automate is basically a version of that original device for liquid handling systems or for automated systems. So it is the world's first on-deck microplate reader module. I'm sure you're familiar with other modules, or everybody likes to talk about modules in the automation space. And essentially what I mean is, there are these modules like the small heaters and shakers from like a Q Instruments or an Inheco, or the ODTC has sort of established itself as a brand name as well in automation, also from Inheco, on-deck thermal cycler. And sort of analogous to those products, our device is an on-deck module, meaning it sort of sits on an SBS position on deck, but it's a readout module. So it's a microplate reader for assays in 96 well format. And it can be integrated as part of, a liquid handling system, so on deck or with any other sort of automated platform.
Great. So what makes this Absorbance 96 Automate so new and innovative?
I think the main thing that makes it innovative is probably just the general approach that we take to interacting with automated systems and sort of how we were able to save space with the instrument. So I think those were the two general questions. It was like, okay, how we have the general concept, we want to integrate this on deck, or we want to integrate it with automated systems. And we just had to come up with sort of an answer as to how to solve that issue. And then also how to solve the issue if you're making it a practicable solution for the user as well. So I think our first goal was really having a seamless integration experience for the user with our device. So, we didn't want to have any sort of technician come and have to install it for the customer and charge them an egregious fee. We basically wanted this to be something that the customer could also just sort of put on deck, plug and play, as it is with our current device with the standalone version. And, as I know, you may or may not know, many current microplate reader solutions work with sort of some type of automatic tray. It's sort of like a CD player. It ejects the microplate from the reader so that the gripper can access it, either pick it up from the top or coming in on the x-axis. And our approach was more to say, okay, how can we leverage the already existing machinery of the liquid handler to essentially do that job for us, right? So we have basically a solid state technology. So there are no moving parts, no tray, nothing mechanical really inside the device. And we thought, okay, why build in a mechanical tray, right? Another mechanical part into our device when we're placing the device on deck of some of the most sophisticated machinery in the world, right? So I really like that approach. I thought it was very elegant, sort of saying, we can use existing infrastructure or leverage existing infrastructure to create a new product. So that's what drove us to come up with sort of this separable design, right? So the way our device works is a top and a bottom, and the gripper basically takes the top part, moves it off of the bottom part. The plate is then placed on that sort of bottom part of the device, and then the top is put back on. That's sort of the workflow. This means that there's no additional hardware necessary. So we were able to really focus, like I said, on the idea of easy integration. So making, the device incorporable onto a single SPS position. You can use the existing gripper that's part of your liquid handling system or any automated system. And what we also tried to do is use the most modern standards. So, for example, we implemented a SLAS2 interface for communication with the device. We also have an automatic measurement feature. So basically all you need is a labware description. You can place the reader on an SPS position, press go, even without a driver from, your liquid handling manufacturer or a scheduler or anything, right? So it can just read and read and read and read and read and auto export the data. So like I said, that was sort of the first thing, the first challenge that we had, and I would say the first innovation. And the second point was definitely just saving space on deck, right? So how is it possible to build a reader that only occupies a single SPS position on deck? So that was probably the second challenge and definitely one of the innovations that the device contains. And thankfully, we had already developed the core concept with our previous product, as I mentioned, which was Absorbance 96. And we basically had to find a way to adopt the Automate version, which has a separable lid. And again, the basic idea of the technology is that where other devices, they usually work with some type of scanning mechanism. Like I said, there's a tray, there are motors, moving parts that move things around, the plate around inside the device, or move sort of a detector scanning head back and forth inside the device. Whereas we sort of have 96 of everything. So we have 96, effectively create 96 light sources in the top of our device. And then we have an array of 96 detectors in the bottom of the instrument. So that sort of multiplex electronic setup. And that allows us to forego any of those types of moving parts. And like I said, sort of create a solid state system, which allows us to save a lot of space, right? So if you're moving the microplate back and forth, for example, underneath the scanner, you automatically need double the area of the microplate. But like I said, if you just have one light source, one detector per well of the plate, you can sort of just do everything in parallel. And that allowed us to save a huge amount of space with the original instrument, with Absorbance 96. And like I said, sort of adopting that technology, which brought some challenges with it for sure, making the two units separable, things with like alignment. I know that our development team definitely had a few challenges to solve there. But that design in general just allows us to save a huge amount of space on deck. And, I think we say that we're the first on deck microplate reader, right? But technically you put anything on deck. So people sometimes, I get people like, no, we already have a microplate reader on deck. Like, yes, but if it's taking up 60% of your deck, I'm not really sure. Is that really a practical solution? So like I said, those are probably the two biggest innovations that we had, sort of this idea of easy integration and just the fact that it occupies only a single SPS position on deck.
Yeah. And I would imagine too that by removing a lot of those moving parts, you're reducing the likelihood of needing to have it serviced. The less things that move, I'm sure the less things that can break or, not work properly. So I would imagine that it also makes it a little bit more easy to use and thus needing all of that constant service that you can sometimes get with moving parts.
Yeah, it does definitely make it more robust as a piece of technology. I mean, solid state, right? I sort of stole that term from hard drives, right? You had sort of these SATA disk-based drives in the past, and then everyone moved to SSD, which stands for solid state drive. And I thought that's actually what we're doing with microplate readers as well, right? We're sort of adopting a traditional technology that's based on moving parts, and we're creating a solid state version of that. So there really are no moving parts in the device. It's just everything's sort of soldered onto the main board, and that does mean that it is maintenance free. So that's also our goal with the instruments. Is there are no mechanical parts that need to be changed during the lifetime of the device. The LEDs have like 20,000 hour lifetime. They're not going to need to be exchanged during the lifetime of the instrument. So that is definitely an astute observation, and is something that is I guess wasn't our intention when we built the device, but it's sort of a happy coincidence that it turns out that technology is just requires very little maintenance and essentially no service.
Yeah, wonderful. Love those happy accidents.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So, you've obviously already alluded to a few of these, but are there any other advantages to having this sort of solid state on deck microplate reader as opposed to some of these more traditional plate readers that have been available?
Yeah, I have spoiled a few of the the advantages, I guess, but there are still a few I think I haven't mentioned. I think I mentioned the idea or this concept of easy integration. I talked about it more from an innovation standpoint, right? That was something we wanted to make possible. That is just very easy for the customer to integrate into their existing system. But, what does that mean from an advantage perspective or even from a cost perspective? So I think that's something that's important to touch on again is the idea of easy integration, because the way this currently works, if let's say you have microplate reader X and you have a Hamilton liquid handler, and you go to Hamilton, you say, yeah, I have a microplate reader. Maybe it's a little bit of an older model, and you say, I want to integrate it with my workflow, right? And that starts a procedure that can last quite a long time. That's going to incur a lot of costs, and in some cases, just won't be possible due to compatibility issues or various other reasons. So, I think our value prop or our proposition of saying that you can just place this onto an SPS position on deck and sort of have this plug and play setup with software. That is a goal, especially with the automatic measurement capability that we have in our software right now. Essentially removing all of those processes that would otherwise be involved in integrating any type of reader into your workflow, especially if you're not already working with some type of flexible scheduler or something like that. So I would say that's one big advantage of the device is just being able to implement it very quickly, very easily, and without a lot of sort of, I guess you could call them third-party or intermediary costs. And then I guess the second part of that as well is, which is also connected obviously to easy integration, is you don't need any third-party hardware to actually implement the solution. So, in a lot of cases, you will see a setup where you have a liquid handler and the liquid handler does the pipetting and whichever other steps are needed for a given assay. Then you'll have a robotic arm, for example, that will take, because most of the grippers on liquid handlers can only sort of do, Z-axis and X-axis movements, X, Y, and Z, but they can't actually pass a microplate outside of the liquid handler, right? So you need a separate arm that can do that, or in some cases, the liquid handling manufacturers have custom grippers, or they have a different gripper in their portfolio that will allow you to do that. So that basically means that either you're going to have to purchase a different gripper for your liquid handler, or you're going to have to purchase a robotic arm, as the microplate reader is now going to sit external to your liquid handler. Best case scenario, you're able to, find a table, put the microplate reader next to your liquid handler. And like I said, the tray can open up far enough inside the liquid handler that the gripper from the liquid handler is able to access the microplate on that tray. But again, you're still going to need some way to communicate between both of those devices. And like I said, we basically removed the need for any type of third-party hardware. So all of that, like I said, you don't need a robotic arm to connect those two worlds to each other, where you have this, you don't need a table where you have a microplate reader sitting next to your liquid handler. So you're also saving space within your own environment. And of course, saving on third-party hardware, what does that mean, right? It means you're saving on costs. So even I'm trying to avoid mentioning brand names here, but some of the grippers that you can purchase that do give you the ability to pass things either off deck or sometimes underneath of the deck, they can cost $20,000. So providing a reader at this price point that basically allows you to get rid of all those kind of messy bits is definitely a big part of the advantages of our solution.
I mean, that's a lot of advantages for sure. But are there any maybe like disadvantages to using this system?
Yeah, I think when talking about disadvantages, I guess talking about advantages, you always compare it to something else, right? And I think with disadvantages, you sort of have the same thing. So if we compare our device to other single mode on deck microplate readers, the situation looks pretty good, right? So again, there is intentionally no competition, which I think is also something we faced with our first instrument, or we would always get people like, how does it compare to other readers on the market? It's like, well, other single mode readers that have this form factor, there really aren't any. We're not really comparable with the traditional ones because it's just such a different technology. But I'm not going to evade the question. So there definitely are a few disadvantages, I guess. So you're going to have to put up with some of the limitations that are inherent in the small size of the instrument. So just to give you an example, it's very difficult to offer UV wavelengths in such a small form factor. So just the nature of the way that the device is built, the way the optical unit works. We would love to offer a device that could measure 260 nanometers or 280 nanometers, right, for sort of nucleic acid quantitation or protein quantification, but currently just the design of our optic doesn't allow for it. So I would say, if you're working with a traditional microplate reader or, any microplate reader that may have a monochromator, where you have a little bit more wavelength flexibility, or you're working with a system that can get down into those lower wavelengths, shorter wavelengths, then, I'd say that could be a potential disadvantage, right? So there is going to be a more limited suite of assays or applications that you can cover with this system compared to, like I said, maybe a more flexible system. Yeah, and I can't really think of any other particular disadvantages as, if you start comparing microplate readers, it's sort of a never-ending thing that you can do. It's not really a game I play because, for example, there are single mode readers, there are multi-mode readers, right? So are you going to compare single mode readers to other single mode readers? Then I would say we've probably covered the only disadvantage. But then if you start, comparing single mode readers to multi-mode readers, that's a different ballgame. But like I said, I'm going to restrict it to single mode readers because I feel like that's the competition we're talking about. So yeah, like I said, that's probably the only disadvantage I'm gonna allow us today.
That's totally fair. So if people are currently, running their assays, they have their protocols all laid out, but then they want to switch over to using this Absorbance 96 Automate, are there any adaptations to the pre-existing assay protocols that they would need to consider in order to use or integrate the Absorbance 96 Automate into their workflows?
I guess it depends on what you mean by protocol. I mean, if you have like a workflow defined, like an automated workflow defined, if a readout is not part of that automated process, right? If that's something that you're doing at the end of an automated pipetting workflow, and you haven't had readout integrated into that automation process, I mean, there are a lot of cases where you see people that will do a pipetting workflow, or they will automate their pipetting workflow on a liquid handler, and then they'll walk up to the liquid handler, and then they take the plate and they go put it in their microplate reader, right? So in those situations, of course, you would have to adapt the protocol to include the readout step. You would have to integrate our instrument on deck of your liquid handler. But if you already have some type of readout step involved, I guess the only thing you would have to change would be, integrating our reader and whatever software requirements would come with that into your existing protocol. But aside from that, like I said, most assay workflows will have some type of readout step involved, and we can just sort of slide nicely into that open slot.
Wonderful. So, you gave us some of the inspiration behind creating this Absorbance 96 Automate, but what kind of gave you guys the idea to kind of go into these on deck plate reader arena to begin with? If it's something that never really existed before, how did you guys come up with the idea, and how did you develop this product?
That's it's a good question. I think like so many things, so many ideas for products, I always remember a story one of my professors told them. I think it was Harry Mullis, I think is his name, the inventor of PCR, in his Nobel Prize speech he said something about like driving down a backcountry road, like with his girlfriend, and then all of a sudden it occurred to him that like PCR exists, right? And I think those sort of casual conversations, interactions, I think that's where the greatest innovations really happen. And in our case, it wasn't much different. We were sort of just having we had a contact at an existing partner company who was purchasing our standalone device, and he sort of had a bit of a background in automation, and we were having a conversation with him. And then there was sort of this, it's pretty small. I wonder if you could put this on deck of a liquid handling system. And that was sort of like, yeah, that's a good question. And then that basically started everything internally for us. Like, yeah, okay, we hadn't really thought about doing that. The small size, it lends itself well to that type of system. That's also one thing that makes us a bit special, is I would say almost an obsessive attention to detail. So especially when it comes to market feedback, we really hang on the words of every user when they talk about, their assay or their device or whatever challenges they're facing. And I think in this case, it wasn't any different, but that's what really allowed us to develop solutions that are aligned with the needs of our users, while still leaving a little bit of room for us to, really innovate and take a new approach to whatever it is that we do. So, like I said, that was definitely the background that got us thinking about that as a solution, right, as something that could be possible. And then we had to tackle all the issues and definitely take a bit of a leap of faith that it would actually work, right, that we could create a device with sort of two separable units. Also, finding out, I guess, the nature of being a somewhat smaller company as well, as we can't do unlimited amounts of market research before we launch a product either, right? So sort of like, okay, we believe there's a market for this. We believe that this has potential as a product. This seems like a good idea to us. So that was sort of the original, that's the original story behind the product, things that really got it going. And like I said, I think it's an ongoing process, right? Like I said, always focusing on whatever it is in any discussion. I think that's what's so valuable about shows like SLAS as well, right? It brings, despite the push towards more online meetings that we've seen in the last few years, there's something about the informal nature of some of the interactions that you have at these events where, I remember I was at a conference here in Germany. I was sitting at a table, I was eating my lunch, and I was sort of doing some work on my laptop, and these two other groups of people came, and I was sitting at a big table, and they asked me, if, like, would you mind if we sit down and we have a business meeting that we want to do? And there was no other seating in the building. So I was like, yeah, of course, no worries. And then they proceeded to have a conversation basically about our device. They were going back and forth, bouncing ideas off each other, sort of how to solve this issue. They needed like a compact ELISA reader that they could take into the field with them. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, is this real? Am I really listening to this conversation? So, I think those types of little interactions, random moments, are very hard to replicate. And like I said, that's why we really appreciate all the trade shows and appreciate everyone going and the effort that everyone puts into them. So, yeah, because like I said, it's been very important to us up till now to hang on the words of our customers and random strangers who sit down at your table.
That's so funny. Did you just like subtly slide your business card across the table to them?
Yeah, actually, they all stood up, and I was like, just a second, I have a question. And then it was funny because they all stood up, and I actually, I used to, for dramatic effect, I sort of pulled the little microplay reader out of my bag, and because I had it in my backpack. Then they all sat back down.
I love that.
It was a pretty coit moment. It definitely had some comic appeal as well. But we still work with them today, so it was a good moment.
That's amazing. I love that. So, speaking of it being, a constant process, what are you guys looking forward to accomplishing in the next year, either, with the Absorbance 96 Automate, or are you looking to something else already?
That's a good question. We are always looking towards new things. It's a chaotic prioritization issue that we constantly face. Everyone here, of course, this is also our strength, I think, is everyone has so many good ideas. And if you spend any amount of time with engineers, they always have a lot of good ideas, and you sort of have to make sure you kill 99% of them. Otherwise, you're going to go down in a fray of chaos. But like I said, there's a lot of idea generation that goes on here. We get a lot of valuable feedback from our user base. I think the most difficult thing for us to do right now is actually to just choose between all of the projects that we want to do. So it's a good position to be in. We have a pretty clear path forward for the company as well, which I think is definitely a good thing to have. And of course, it is a good problem to have, right? If you're just choosing between various excellent solutions and product strategies. Of course, that part of it is true, right? We are looking towards new things. I can maybe talk about that a bit more in a second. But to come back to Automate, first of all, it's important not to lose focus, right? We don't just want to launch a product and then move on towards the next product. First, we're putting time and effort into Automate as well, and we do have goals there. And I think one of the biggest things in the next year will be sort of getting this set up as an established system, right? So right now, it is commercially available, but We have to work on programming, because there will be people when they want to integrate it, they want to have sort of a full integration with their liquid handler. So we need to work on programming drivers with various liquid handling manufacturers to build up, and they create a labware description. So it's just sort of a package purchase, plug and play integration for the people who want to work like that. We need to build up a substantial user base. And what always comes with that, especially based on previous experiences, you start to, you have a rough idea of the applications that you want to cover, the ones you're going to target with the instrument. But there are always new applications that come to light. And I think in the past as well, there have been cases where there have been applications that we did not have on our radar at all. And then you keep getting orders for like the same device configuration. You're like, okay, what's going on here? What are you guys doing with the instrument? And then you reach out to them like, okay. And that's one part that I always enjoy being more on the market side of things is getting to see that happen over time with our products. And so I think that's something that will definitely happen with automated. But we've already been getting a lot of inquiries for things like strain development in the agricultural sector. And I think that's also something, we tend to have a sort of a very research heavy focus. It's like, there are actually also a lot of practical applications for our technology in other sectors as well that we may not have thought of. So that's going to be a big thing. And of course, just focusing on commercializing the products. And like I said, learning from our users, industry partners, and establishing the device as a solution on the market.
Did you want to talk a little bit about some of those other products that you've got?
Yeah.
Are they all secret right now?
I was just thinking I can speak very vaguely about various things. It's a talent. No, I can. I got a half an hour of product filibuster for you. But so we, like I said, we do have a very clear product strategy. And I think what we saw at SLAS as well was there were so many people there who were excited about our future products. So we had, we went home, we did a sort of analysis of all of the inquiries that we got. And like, okay, we're sort of 40% this application, 40% this application, 20% different application. And, we see that there's a massive explosion in the NGS market as well, which we've seen in the last maybe 3 years. Obviously, a bit of that was spurred on by Corona as well. But like I said, that's definitely a market that's interesting for us. And we saw that, it was unfortunate. And in some cases, we did have to disappoint some people at SLAS because they would see that there was an on-deck microplate reader, and you would see their eyes would get wide, and they'd go like, "Can this do this specific application?" Like, not yet. So, like I said, that was really helpful to get a feel for sort of the different markets, what's going on, what people are interested in doing, the direction the wind is going in. So that helped us a lot. And like I said, we have a suite of products now that we've developed. We have the Absorbance 96, the standalone instrument that you can use as a benchtop device. We have Absorbance 1, which is a cuvette version of the same absorbance technology. Now we have the automate version, which is the version for the handling systems for any automated system, which sort of, completes the suite of products for absorbance, right? But as you can imagine, absorbance is not the only light-based measurement technique that exists. So we will now, like I said, make a bit of a foray into exploring new possibilities in other modes, as they say. So I guess I'll leave it at that. Otherwise, I'll probably start going in circles, talking more and more about this.
Yeah, no, it all sounds very intriguing, and I think that there will be many people who are going to be excited to see what you guys bring to SLAS 2024, for sure. Before we wrap up, if there are any researchers who are out there listening and they are now super interested in using the Absorbance 96 Automate, is there anything that they need to know before they can get started with using this product?
The wavelength range is between 400 and 1,000 nanometers. You can have up to 6 wavelengths in the device. That's very important before you submit an inquiry. And other than that, just get in touch with us. We're happy to have a conversation with you about whichever application you're interested in. We're happy to talk about integration, regardless of whether or not you want to purchase a driver from whichever manufacturer. We will send you a demo unit free of charge, let you try it out, play around with it. So yeah, I would say those are the two things. Be aware of the specifications and don't hesitate to contact us, and feel free to grab one and try it out.
Well, Colten, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so exciting to get to learn more about your product and your company. And yeah, we really look forward to seeing Byonoy at many, many future SLAS events and seeing what new exciting products you guys have cooking.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Hannah. We're really looking forward to SLAS next year. And yeah, maybe I'll see you there.